My strongest memory from the 70s was the 60s going into the 70s, because when I come, it was my parents' generation who come first, my mother's generation, and then some of them have children, and then by the coming the 70s, the children start to become teenagers or just before teenagers. So it's between the 70s, which is the older generation, and then you have another generation of probably teenagers come from Jamaica. So there was a changeover, there was a lap over, because we was responsible, the ones from Jamaica was responsible for the correcting the children were born in England, innit? So it was our duty to fight for them and to protect them, because so the 70s was a crossing point where the music, the culture and everything clash. And then our part we have the Americas, which a lot of things feed from America, because the music, the segregation, because in the 70s it was still segregation. In the 60s was Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and the civil rights movement. So it affects us as well here, because coming here, we wasn't welcome. We was welcome to work. Our parents was welcome to work, but not welcome in the community. And when you come here, the people didn't know nothing about you. They know your music, they dance to your music, but that's all they do. But moving to them, they thought we was just come here to work and go back home. You see, so we yeah. But the 70s was a change, because we have to fight on the streets, fight in politics, we have to fight in everything to be recognized as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
We plant roots here, because the generation who born here become teenagers and adults in the 70s.
Mm.
And because of they are rejectors, well, even though they were born here, because of the rejection, they have to identify not as British, but as Jamaicans, or Caribbean, or Africans, or even Asian, because they never let us they never give us the free will. Yeah, and they have to come together as a community. That's before us, the children, come over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we come over, we have more of a rebel kind of attitude. Things have to change, which our parents would take a back seat, because we said if there's something on the street, we're gonna go and see what it is. If something needs changing, we're gonna fight till it changes. And I think that's where it is, because the 70s, where the music was coming out of the Caribbean, mostly Jamaica, it was like about redemption. It's about fighting. Get up, stand up for yourself. Get up, fight for your rights. Don't be oppressed. And we did need those kind of music and those kind of message, because to help us to fight and to change laws and change things here, because it was very, very, very difficult, you see, like to entertain ourselves. We used to have house parties. Right? Our parents used to have house parties. But then we start with the sound system. The sound system, because music was coming out of Jamaica, and everyone have to be at a record shop to get the records, because they were pre-released and they didn't come in thousand. They come in things. So if you get the first record, that means you're on top. Your sound system is on top.
Mm-hmm.
It's because we have to create our own entertainment. In the 70s, we used to make speaker box, and every town in Britain have a sound system, and we used to have sound system clash where we used to play against each other, right? And you used to see the same faces, sometimes from London, sometimes from Ring, and so we have to play our own kind of music. We have to use our music to keep us balanced with the bullshit what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we asked for change because for 400 years we was in the colonies, and we want to be recognized as a human. Why should we fight for our freedom when we was born free? So, we create our own identity. And I think the 70s was quite important. It's because music, we listen to R&B and reggae, calypso, any music which, because there was a message, most of the reggae, there was a lot of message, military message about suppression and freedom.
What about the style? What type of things did people wear?
Well, clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we come to England, we dress. We used to in the Caribbean, we used to have Sunday best.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday best is our best clothes. If we live in the woods, we always have a Sunday best. We wouldn't even walk, we would walk barefoot, and when we reached down the road, we put our shoes on, right? Because we didn't want to mash our Sunday best up. So, my father, he was in the Royal Air Force. He was in the last World War. He come to Britain to fight in the so-called fascist war. But then he come back and he used to get his material, like his fabric, from Britain. And everything was tailor-made. Like in Jamaica we have tailor-made, so our clothes have to be thing. And I think we bring it here with us. Because if you, when we come in the 60s and 70s, the skinheads, they want to be like us. The skiffle cut, which we come over with in the 60s.
What's that?
Skiffle is when your hair cut, like, what do they call it, number one or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, skiffle. But we used to have a part in the head, and our parents used to wear, because my father used to wear big baggy trousers. They used to really baggy trousers. And so we used to have braces. But then the skinheads start to copy us. You see, the haircut come from us, the style of dressing come from us, but they want to be like us. We used to have two-tone trousers.
What's two-tone trousers?
It's a material with fabric with two-tone. When you go in the sun, you can change colors. There used to be the Crombie. We used to wear Crombie jackets. Coat. You know the Crombie? Yeah, Crombie and the silk. If you look back in the 70s or Google it, you will see the Crombie, the two-tone trousers, the old one. Because when we go clubs, we have to look our best. You see, we used to dress our best. And so that's between the 60s and the early 70s. and then things start to change. Yeah, but then you have the Afro. Afro mainly come from not the Jackson 5. The Jackson 5 copied the Afro, but I think it was a woman called Angela Davis who was in prison in America. Who was, I think she was sentenced for life in prison, and then we have to. She's still alive, Angela Davis, and then we have to like protest that they must free Angela Davis. But then the Afro, everybody come up with the Afro. You see, and the Afro was it was a statement as well to say it loud. We are black and we are proud.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so all that entwined, the culture, the fashion, and everything entwined with everything. You see, with the music, everything entwined. It was like you have Muhammad Ali, who was the boxer, and he was the best boxer. But he wasn't just a boxer. He was a representation of us, right? If somebody run, don't care which part of Africa, America, Jamaica you come from, they represent us. And that's why it was important. So the fashion, the culture, the whole thing entwined with each other. And it was quite important that we stick together. The miniskirt was on when we come here as well, when we come first, because all of the girls used to wear miniskirt, but black girls didn't used to go out a lot. And then their parents never let them out. It was the boys go out. So the boys go out and the white girls go out. The white boys go out. So they will meet in the disco. You see, it's late 70s and the black girls start to go out. The girls were born in England and the Jamaican girls, their parents had to let them out. But here in the 70s, but in the 60s, these girls stay at home. Then it's split between, because at one time the music was reggae and R&B. But then when the Rasta thing come in, is like roots, cause you is a roots. If you're a roots person, that means you listen to more cultural stuff and less commercial stuff. You see, and then you would dress more of a like a article kind of spiritual kind of thing. Because if you're roots, you have more spiritual thing. You deal more in one love, like say Bob Marley. You see, it was the. And then, but it was the same people, because you'll have probably 3 kids in one house. One would be a Rasta, which is different, and then the other one they would call him a soul head. A soul head mean he dressed like a Yankee, like an American. You see. But it was the same thing, but we probably would meet at the same place. But then it started to change, because in Britain they put labels and different things. Instead of integrating it together, like you take the music, the radio station, they would play a certain music. You go to the record company, they will tell you, oh, you belong to that kind of music, you belong to folk, you belong to country, you belong to R&B, you belong to pop. You see, so Britain do a lot of labeling, so they deal with things, so people feel in themselves, in their own body, oh, I belong to this person, I belong to this part of the world, and I belong to this part of the world. You see. Well, in the 70s, London they carry all the fashion and thing, because there was a lot of punk rockers, because in the 60s you have Hells Angels who dress in
like the bikers.
The bikers, and they wear chains and thing, right? And then before that you have the Teddy Boys.
Who were they?
Teddy Boys was the ones who like rock and roll music from America. So they would wear like their hair sugar up, and then right? Then you'll have, because it's changed. Then after that you have the Mads. The Mads was the ones who ride scooter.
Oh, the mods, yeah.
And they would wear Dr. Martens and different things. And after that, but the skinheads was the ones who like reggae.
Yeah.
But I couldn't understand why they become racist when they listen to our music. So they didn't understand themselves. I think there was a confusion there. And after that, cause before that you got the hippies. The people with the long hair, the love man, they smoke weed, take heroin, smoke thing. But their intention was a peaceful world.
Was that big in England? Yeah, so tell me about the hippie movement.
Well, the hippies. Hippie was kind of like a thing, because you got the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War.
Was England involved in that?
No, but it was injustice, and so hippies, people like the Beatles, people was involved because they see injustice, they see, and hippies was the freedom movement, like people's rights to actually fight against injustice and talk about love. And you got the Beatles, you got the Rolling Stone, you got all of these. There was sub from R&B music, because before, in the when rock and roll started, rock and roll was a black music, but then they wouldn't use it. They say it was devil music. It was the devil's music, until Elvis started to pick it up, and they start to accept Elvis. But there's always a division between our own stuff and when they accept our stuff. You know, the hippies was a force, and then you have hippies, Teddy Boys, Hells Angels, Mads. Mads was in between the. You don't know, like Mads was like boys on bikes, but they will attack black people. They would attack black people. The Teddy Boy would attack black people. The Hells Angel would attack black people. And the skinheads would attack black people. I think they were jealous of us because of the way we carry ourselves. But then you have the punks. When the punks come in, I think the punk was the most disloyal group of young people who with a revolutionary kind of attitude to change things and to integrate. Because the punk music was kind of a reggae, ska, but they didn't care because they couldn't play it. So they do it anyway. and they just do it wild. So you have Sid Vicious and all of these people who probably would come to the dub, or to the blues party, or to the blues dance, or to a sound system clash and thing, but they didn't care. So that influenced a lot of people, like to cause the punk didn't care. There was an anarchist kind of set up to say, yes, let's bring the system down, let's destroy the system because it's not serving us, you see. And they didn't care, you see. And with that, the Bob Marley come in, right? All of them, like the Police, right? There's a lot of people who get influence from the punk flavor. Cause Bob Marley was there, but he was influencing peace and freedom. He was he was influencing liberation. He was standing up for people. You see, but when we dress, I think we dress in those times to what's happening. But the punk dressed like a punk. The Rastas dressed like a Rasta. The skinhead dressed like a skinhead. But they all entwined to change, like a generation of like a book with different generation, a booklet of different generation, which say, yeah, we must be recognized. We must be a part of it. You see, because there's so much things going on, you know, where you have that time you have the Soviet Union and the Americans, and we can see a dark cloud. We can see a dark cloud with the Soviet Union, which is Eastern Europe, which is owned by Russia, right? And then they always sparring up to each other. Then you have the Chinese over there, who was world power. You see, so it influence and affect people. So you either be a socialist or you're nothing. You're a socialist or you don't, or you want to be in the, you have Castro, Fidel Castro. You have all these different revolution, different Che Guevara. You have all these people who influence us and make we look outside the box and say we ain't gonna be controlled by this this system. And I think the 70's, it was a revolutionary influence kind of thing to people, you know. Well,
Mum says she remembers when she was growing up. Mum says when she remembers when she was growing up in the 70's, there was a lot of like fear of nuclear war.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. I'm talking about the nuclear war. It was Russia, the Soviet Union, on the Americans. You have the Soviet Union and the American. Then you have the Berlin, because Berlin itself was split into two. East Berlin and West Berlin. West Berlin belonged to this place, this society, and East Berlin belonged to that society, right? So to me it was just ignorance and control, where they controlled people, right? Because socialism is supposed to be better for human or better for the society. You see? And then you have capitalism, which is us living in a capitalist society, but we're controlled by the capitalists. And then you have the communists, who are socialists, but the socialist people controlled by the communists. You see, so it was just that they didn't care, but I think the people themselves, who just survive day by day to day, and some people didn't even want to know about it. I take the hippies, they just want to break down the walls, because democracy wasn't democracy. Because we're living in a world so-called democracy. It wasn't democracy, because if you live in a democracy where people are treated different, that's not a democracy, is it? If you see people different, if you see them, the Vietnamese, if you see people, the blacks, if you see people, the white, that's not democracy.
So you're saying there's a lot of like fear in that time?
There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear that anything could happen. Anything could happen, because there was the eagle. The eagle was America, and the bear was Russia. So the eagle and the bear was always and then you have the red over there, which is China. You see, they were great powers. You got Chairman Mao. Chairman Mao was the man who started the socialist kind of revolution, communist revolution in China. You see, so to unify the country, he said, because China did have so much people, and to actually control the people was to have this socialist kind of ideology, so that, you know, because China have a quarter of the world population. So a quarter of the world population, it must take a lot of you have to have socialism. You see, yeah. But the 70s was the 70s. I would say the 70s, the 60s was a turning point in the world where people start to look and say, yeah, we have to take control, not the politicians. We have to take all the control. Because if we didn't start then the Berlin Wall wouldn't be down. A lot of country in Africa wouldn't get their liberation. You see, because they say there was democracy, but yet still you own a colony. How could you be democracy and you own a colony? You own a colony, but you're a democracy. So to me, democracy is hypocrisy. Yeah.
Did you at the time feel like you had to do anything to fight for the?
Yeah, in my growing up, I was in a movement called Black Liberation. We got black. We used to have a lot of liberation kind of movement, because to identify ourselves and to fight for the people who can't fight for themselves, to speak for the voice who cannot heard. It's just like Bob Marley do with his songs. Just like what a lot of reggae artists done with their songs, is that they speak for the voice is not heard. You see, so we are like the media. We were like the media, because like today's media, right? And everything we have to listen, and if there's a demonstration, yeah, we have to bring it down. If there's injustice, we have to fight for it. And that's because everything was real. Oppression was real. Segregation was real. Mental segregation was real. Racism was real.
But you said that your mum came over in the Windrush, innit?
The Windrush, I have a problem with that. Windrush. I have a problem with Windrush. Because Windrush is a boat. Mm-hmm. It's the name of a boat which go up to in Essex. Mm-hmm. Right? My mother did come on a boat, but it wasn't called Windrush. So she come over, so they use one boat to cast everybody, to tag everybody, a Windrush generation. There's no Windrush generation. There were people come because Britain need people to actually build up Britain after the war. So my mother and a lot of people take the opportunity to come because we were British colony at the time. My mother born as British. I was born as British.
Even though you were born in Jamaica?
Yeah, because I was British country. I was born in the British colonies. So I was British. But then my mother come here because they need, after the war, there was so much people die in the war, so many people get killed in the war, and it was all working class people. And we come here to help them out.
What type of jobs did you have to do when you first came over?
Well, I come here when I was nearly 16. Yeah, I spent a little time in school. But I work in a lot of factories. My mother worked in a lot of factories. So there was a lot of family.
What kind of factories? What type of things do you have to do?
We do loads of stuff, all different things. When I come here, Britain have a loads of companies, like they make bus, they make plane, they make ship, they make everything. When I come to this country, there was everything. That's what I'm saying. Birmingham, the Midland, was the heartbeat of British industry. And then I think it was in the 70s, 80s, everything dried up. You see, yeah. So yeah, I work in factory. I do from working making sweets to making handbag to make car muffler, the exhaust. I do a loads. I work in different factory because in those times it was easy to get a job. You walk out of one factory and you knock on the other factory, it's vacancy. There was another thing they used to have. Some factory didn't like black people working for them. So you would see vacancy. We have vacancy, and when you're going to do, oh yeah, it's been full, but it's still there. those was kind of the things we have to use to go through vacancy. Going to the clubs, they never let us in because they say, oh, you got this, you'll inspect your shoes, and they say, oh, you can't come in. This was a racist kind of thing, or you don't dress properly, I think. So eventually we stopped going to the clubs and we create our own entertainment. Yeah.
How do people live? Because didn't people, like a lot of families, live in one house?
Yeah, it was a lot of family. I think what it is, right, financially, the bank wouldn't lend Caribbean people, and Asian people money, right? So my parents and her family and her friends, my mother, they used to have a thing called partner, where they to accumulate some money is that we'll go to work and then we all would put £10 in a kitty, and then one week would be yours. So if there's 10 people in it, it's £100 for you. So you can go and put a deposit on your house, or you can put it something or buy something where you want, and the next week could be mine. This is called a partner. And I think the Asian people probably do the same, where they all put the money again. Because the bank wouldn't lend us money to buy a house or to buy a car or to do things. Yeah, that was in the 60s. Yeah, 60s, 70s.
You said that all the styles started from like black people. Did you have to make your own clothes, or was there a shop? Where would you get your clothes?
I used to get my clothes tailor-made, my trousers. To me it was cheaper, and it would be the style I like.
So you would go and say,
I'd buy a material. I'd go to Birmingham, Rag Market, and buy some
material. What's Rag Market?
It's in Birmingham. They still have it in the textile shop.
So you just go to a fabric shop?
Yeah. There was a market I think one day in the week. The fabric shop where there, and you go and you buy your thing. It would be cheaper than going to a thing. So we used to go and buy pants length, and then we used to find out a tailor, and the tailor used to make it. You see? Yeah, my mother used to sew. Your grandmother, she used to sew. And I think a lot of Caribbean people used to sew. Women used to sew. Yeah, it was, But then things become cheaper, so people start to buy stuff, and then fashion become more in the cause you have Burton's. Burton's. Burton is a store where they make men clothes. Right? They now make women clothes as well. But at that time Burton only make men clothes. So we used to go and buy three, and then we used to have hats. We used to have Panama. We used to walk with Panama hats.
What are they?
They're like white hat, and we used to dress of them like that. I sure got a picture of one with my Panama hat. And we used to it was fun because I myself never liked to dress like somebody else. If somebody dressed like that, if they have a shoes, I ain't wearing it. I ain't wearing the same shoes as somebody else. Right, so I would go out and look for something different in the shop. Some people are so weird, they used to dress like the same. Yeah, platform. Have you ever seen the platform shoes? Yeah, we used to wear platform shoes.
But you used to wear platform shoes?
Yeah, with bell bottoms. In bell bottom, we saw bell bottom, and we used to go Oxford bag.
What's Oxford bag?
Oxford bag was be a big trousers. Yeah, Oxford bag. You can Google that. Oxford bag, bell bottoms, and platform. We used to wear the and the Scottish tartans. You know Scottish tartans.
No.
The Scottish the material.
Oh, what? Yeah. The
Tartan.
animal material.
Yeah,
Right.
we used to wear bell bottom trousers.
What about the girls? What did the girls wear?
They used to wear mini skirts and they used to yeah. I think most girls used to get their dress made in the days. I think the girls used to get their dress made, but they also used to go and buy thing. Yeah, fashion. I think fashion them time was more dynamic than what it is today, because fashion was when fashion come, you stand out. Yeah, you stand out. So that person, because that person want to be different, so that's fashion. But nowadays everybody look alike.
Yeah.
Everybody look alike. Yeah, because if you look at David Bowie, they all used to look different, right? T-Rex, Mark Bolan, they all look different, so you could know that person is different. So they were different people, and they represent a different, they represent the same scenario, but look different. And then the Americans now, gosh, the Afro, the way they dress. You got the Four Tops. You got the
What's Four Tops?
Four Tops was a singing group,
Ah.
and they all dress. Then you have Aretha Franklin. You got the Temptation and all of these people. These was the music we do, and those was influence us as well, because there's a time after the Afro, there was curly perm.
Yeah.
Curly perm, where they get some chemical and put in their hair. They put like, they say, I don't know what happened to African people anyway. They never like to have their natural hair, because Afro was natural. That time people was proud of themselves, but they got up and flow like that. Women wear wigs now. Before Afro, my mother used to straighten her hair. They all used to wear a straightening comb, and then Rasta comes and say, "No, why do you want to be like the white person?" But that's what the slave master and the slave thing do, is that you straighten your hair and you think you'll be like them. So you get a comb and you put it in the fire, and then you straighten your hair. Or you go to the hairdresser. I remember throwing away. I remember me and my brother throwing my mother straightening comb hair. I said to her, "Stay natural." We throw it away. Because we didn't want our mother to straighten her hair to look like some white women. The 70s was a decade which bring diversity to the political front in Britain, because we have riots, we have lawmaking, we have changes, and I think the 70s throughout the colonial diaspora was a turning point in actually giving people freedom and recognition. And it was the youths and the music, the culture, the fashion, the whole thing was very special in the 70s. Shaped the 80s and the 90s and where we are now.
You see it, style and that coming up revival.
Yeah. It's you know, it's the 70s was a very special, because it was two different culture meet on the main street, and one was subtle, the other one was fearful, right? With two different culture, and it takes so many years for the two cultures to entwine together, and it shaped the future of tomorrow. Even though we still have the people who are ignorant and want to dispatch themselves from reality to say that yeah, you go back where you come from. There's no way to go back to, and there's no way I come from. I come from the one planet, and everybody come from the same planet. So there's no one. We only separated. There's rooms in the house. We're separated by water, and that's it.